morning, underway, on our way to the Bahamas. Woo!
Between the sun and the deep blue sea, my feet in the sand, green umbrella drink in my hand.
Look at that sunrise. It's a welcome sight after leaving so early this morning. Eily is really seasick. I think we waited too long to put our relief band on her. We're getting bounced around pretty good out here as we make our way across the Gulf Stream. But it sure is beautiful.
The Gulf Stream is a current that flows from the Gulf of Mexico, through the Straits of Florida, between Florida and the Bahamas, and then out into the North Atlantic. Crossing the Gulf Stream can be a big deal. For us, it is our longest passage to date and represents a big step in our cruising journey, leaving the United States and heading for the clear waters and beautiful beaches of the Bahamas. Between South Florida and the Bahamas, the current typically flows from south to north at 1 to 3 knots, sometimes more. Much has been said and written about strategies for crossing it, but I'm going to boil it down to a few simple tenets.
Note, the following is from my research and experience in crossing the stream a grand total of 1 time, and is in no way meant to be a comprehensive guide.
1. Wait for the right wind. Wind from the north is no good, as the northerly wind fights the southerly current, creating an uncomfortable, if not dangerous, sea state. Winds from the east aren't great either, as sailing or even motoring straight into the wind isn't fun. If you're sailing, ideally you want to wait for a wind from the south, which is what we did. 2. Don't get behind the current. Miami to Bimini is pretty much a straight trip east, but if you're set you're heading to east, you'll miss Bimini by the distance the current pushes you north. The tricky part is how much depends on how long you're in the current and how fast it's pushing you. I could get all mathy here with charts, tables, and rulers, but I'll just give a couple examples. Scout sails at anywhere between 4 to 8 knots, depending on the conditions in the moment. I mentioned earlier that the current flows at 1 to 3 knots. If we're sailing at 8 knots in a 1 knot current, we'll get pushed about 6 miles north. On the other hand, if we're sailing at 4 knots in a 3 knot current, we'll get pushed 37 miles north. So what do you plan for? You want to pick a route that can handle the higher end of how much the current might push you. It's much easier to plan for more drift and then gradually turn more and more with the current than it is to find yourself too far north and have to keep turning more and more into the current to adjust. This is why we chose to leave from Key Largo, even though it's a longer crossing, rather than from Miami or Fort Lauderdale. From Key Largo, we can head straight east and hit our target even with 30 plus miles of current drift. We didn't get that much, and throughout the day I was monitoring our speed and position and gradually setting a bit of a more northerly heading. 3. If you can't make the journey all in daylight, as we couldn't, it's much easier to get out of a known harbor in the dark than it is to get into an unknown harbor in the dark, hence the 4 a.m. departure. Finally, always do what's best for your boat and your crew. A weather window that's great for a buddy boat might not be the right window for you.
I never believed we were gonna buy a boat, and here we are. I never believed we were gonna leave the marina, but here we are. And we're on the Gulf Stream, which is one of the most dangerous crossings, I guess. And the Bahamas are gonna be a dream for me, like a kid in a candy store.
Depth sensor is out because the water is too deep for the depth sensor to sense. It's like the water is like 1,000 feet deep.
1,000 feet.
2,000 feet deep.
2 hours when we get there and we're going through a cut and it's shallow, then you're going to be my spotters.
Bahamas, right ahead.
We made it. But before flying that Bahamian flag, there was the matter of checking in. Thank you. Check-in number 1. We'll see if there's something really dumb that I've forgotten.
You just got back from Customs and Immigration. How'd it go?
Went well. It was super easy. We chose to go a little bit out of the beaten path. We went down to Cat Key, not Bimini. It's about 8 miles south of Bimini. Cat Key's a private island. The office is there for the convenience of the people who come and check in. They charge you a fee to do it. I think we probably would have spent that much in Bimini between a marina, eating out, etc. But net couldn't have been easier. Dinghied in, 15 minutes, dinghied out. Got everything we need, and we're official for the next 90 days here.
And were they like really mean and intimidating, or gracious and kind?
Customs and Immigration was great, and then the Cat Key folks were fine. They were tolerant of my presence.
And how much did we have to pay to be here? What was the...
Well, the Bahamas charges you $300 for 3 months and a fishing license, which is reasonable. We got raked over the coal for $500 for the privilege of going into the Cat Key Marina, which is, it's a shakedown. I think my best guess is it's their way of having a Customs and Immigration office, which is a public service, and yet they don't want to be crowded with people checking in, so they run them off with a $500 fee.
It keeps the riffraff out.
Keeps the riffraff out, except for us. We riffraffed in. Pros and cons.
But it was really convenient for us to come here versus trying to go up to Bimini and find an anchorage. This was just the closest point from Key Largo and really easy to get into. And sounds like the Customs and Immigration was as easy as it could have possibly been.
Easy as it could have possibly been. I can't imagine an easier experience. She helped me fill out the forms. So yeah, and then we're gonna check out Gun Key, which is right there behind me, this afternoon / tomorrow, and then on to the berries, I think.
High five. Woo, we did it.
We spent one night outside of North Cat Key as we checked in, then moved a short distance to Honeymoon Harbor, north of Gun Key.
While there, we had our first experience of the crystal clear Bahamian waters that we had so been longing for. And said hello to some local rays. But our honeymoon didn't last long. We got some pretty big wind here, and our beautiful anchorage here at Honeymoon Harbor turns into not so beautiful. We just drug anchor and it's pitch black outside. We've got a new moon and there's cloud cover and rain and we have no stars. It is literally pitch black and we have to move. We've got real big jagged rocks and shallow water right behind us. We think that we drug about 50 to 100 feet, and it is pretty scary. So we are gonna take the boat right now out through a cut and around to the east side of the island and hopefully get into the lee of the storm. Oh my gosh. That was terrifying.
Yeah, so we moved at night. Winds have been picking up and changing direction rapidly. Best guess, dislodged our anchor. Anchor drug for a little bit, caught again. Where it caught again, we were less than 100 feet from shallows.
And ragged rocks, so it was no good.
And
if we had drug again, we would never have had time to.
Well, not only that, if we'd kept dragging,
Right.
I don't think. I mean, we had an alarm on. It beeped at us. We immediately sprung into action. But I don't think we would have. I don't think we would have arrested the progress in time. I don't know.
So anyway, we pulled up the anchor, and we came around through this cut and around to the east side, the lee side of the island.
But now, not only are we in the lee, the Gulf Stream is to our rear.
Yeah,
so if we
do
drag, we drag out to sea and we deal with it versus dragging into rocks.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get some sleep tonight. So what do we learn from that? Well, a number of things. One, cozy little anchorages or bays can become coffins really quickly when the wind shifts. Sea room is your friend. Plan for the big wind. When we anchored, we had wind in one direction, but we knew it was going to shift to the other. I should have anchored in such a way where I was being blown out to sea in heavy wind. Dive on your anchor. I did dive on the anchor. In hindsight, it wasn't set really well, but even if it had been, 180 degree shifts in wind oftentimes will pop your anchor up and spin it around. So even if you've got your anchor set well, pay really close attention right at that key moment when the wind shifts. And then when in doubt, move in daylight. The situation was way worse because we had to do it in pitch black when the storm was already upon us. We knew it was coming. We should have moved in daylight. Finally, and this is not a new lesson, but one learned again, do what's best for you. There was another cruising catamaran in that little bay. There was not any cruising boats where I should have anchored in the lee of the island. Gotta make your own decisions, don't follow the crowd. As it usually does, the sun came up the next morning. With our anchor safely dug in, we set out to explore Gun Key.
It's a new day for a high. It's another day to try to get by. And ooh, yeah, I'm feeling now every second, every hour of the day. Yeah. It's a new day for a high. Yeah. It's a new day for good times. I just turn the page, let it write what it likes. And ooh, yeah, I feel it now. Every atom in my body feels okay. Yeah. It's a new day for good times.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe.